we've had a huge journey on dessert. Okay, huge journey. And then I've taken these little steps based on some of the interviews that I've done. So what our dessert transformation, Paul, my first child, had probably his first candy, like his first actual straight sugar at age 15 months. Leah, child number 2, hit Halloween when she would have been about 16 or 17 months. So a little bit older. She had her first candy then, and boy, did she love it. She just put the candy in her mouth and looked up at me and went, oh, candy. She'd run around the whole week after that first candy experience going, nanny, nanny, nanny. That was how candy came out of her mouth. She was so excited about it. Third child, I believe John was 2 before he had candy. And my fourth child, Gabriel, was 3 years old before he had candy or really any sugary treat. So we just kind of like extended. The more we know, the more we wait on that. And it's not about restriction. At that point, it's just about ignorance is bliss. And if they don't know it's there, they don't know what they're missing. So they don't even know that they're restricted. Because I did know, and I do know now, that full-on restriction of a food tends to unfortunately create desire and craving. And we want to make sure we don't completely do that. Kids need to be able to encounter foods, even those that we maybe don't want them to eat, to have a healthy relationship with all food. So we've shifted that a lot. We've had to do a lot of grandparent training, like, no, guys, no, they really don't need candy yet. We had funny little names for dessert. When Gabe was little, all the big kids would call it a D or a P or a pig. Like, he would kind of start to figure it out, and then we'd have to shift what we called dessert so that he didn't know it existed yet. And I don't even remember, to be honest, if we had or what kind of restrictions we might have had or boundaries on Paul and Leah for desserts when they were little. Eventually, we started with 1 dessert a day at some point, but it was still always like, you have to eat your dinner. You have to have a good dinner or a good lunch before you can have your 1 dessert a day. And then, I did a couple interviews where people talked about how if we put that dessert at the end of the meal, it's like a trophy, right? And we have to get through the drudgery of the meal in order to get to the trophy of the dessert. And I thought, oh my goodness, that resonates with me so much. It makes so much sense. That's in fact exactly how I describe it now, thanks to my interview guests who are amazing and have been amazing. And so I started, Gabe was probably 4 when we started 1 dessert a day, but you can have it anytime you want. So my other 3 older kids, right? So they would be like 7, 10, and 13. They already had their habits pretty ingrained. So most of the time they would keep their dessert after dinner just because that's where it always had been. Sometimes they might have it at snack or after lunch. But Gabe at age 4, for about 2 months, he had his dessert at breakfast every single day. And I was like, this is bonkers. I think this is a good decision to let them just choose the timing and not have to be contingent upon finishing a meal. But this is starting to feel bonkers. And then it finally started to sink into him that if he had his dessert at breakfast, then he didn't get any desserts the rest of the day. And if we had something fun, like a birthday or walk into the ice cream shop in the summer, he would miss out. So it really taught him to budget his dessert, and he had to kind of ask questions and figure out what else might be happening in the day. That's really high executive functioning for a 4-year-old, which is probably why it took him 2 months. And we kind of talked him through that, but it was hilarious to watch. And Gabe is still at age 9, the one who kind of moves his dessert around more than most of the other kids. Leah doesn't really like desserts, to tell you the truth. And the other 2 kids, it's after dinner. They're just are still in that habit. But the next shift, of course, was once kids are in junior high and high school, that 1 dessert a day is not really a fair or sustainable rule. It's not really something I can enforce. So we've shifted 2 of our kids away from that. They kind of make their own dessert choices. And of course, John is 12, 7th grade. So we're about to figure out again, I don't even remember how we do it. We're about to figure out again kind of how to shift him out of that and release those apron strings and release that responsibility gradually so that he's making all his own dessert or sweet treat or whatever you want to call it decisions. So that means Gabe is going to be the only one with the 1 dessert rule. And I'm looking to make sure he can't hear me because it's going to be really important, I think, that he doesn't know that everyone else has aged out because he'll be exceptionally jealous and he will not like that much at all.